Welcome back to another episode of Projecting Grandeur. I am your host, Ron Dichter. I am so pumped for today's show. We have a very exciting guest who has more energy than most of us combined. I want to welcome Fitz Koehler to the show. She is really just somebody who embodies everything about health and wellness. She has a master's in exercise and sports science. She's the founder of Fitness International, which we're going to get into, creator of beloved Morning Mile program that energizes school children worldwide, a high energy race announcer that many of you may actually know her from, a media personality, best-selling author. Fitz, it is awesome. Thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely pumped to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's get right into it. I know everyone is going to want to hear your story. So let's start off early. What first led you towards fitness education, and how did that path evolve into creating Fitness International?
Yeah, so I'm a worker bee. My parents taught us to be worker bees. We always had a job. I think my first real job was at the skating rink. I was the birthday clown. I got to dress like a clown and serve the cake and the hot dogs and lead the hokey pokey, which is pretty much what I do right now. I'm still the birthday clown leading the hokey pokey in a sense, but I was 14. I was working, well, backtrack. 14, blew out my knee playing soccer, had major surgery, went through a large rehab process. That doctor and the PT told my mom, you need to have her join a gym and keep strength training or she's going to re-injure herself. And I was like, okay. So I did. So my mother lied and said I was 15 so I could join Spa Lady Fitness Center in Fort Lauderdale. And so I started going there and loved it. I loved strength training. I loved taking classes. I thought the instructors were cool. And at some point I had a job at Cinnabon in the mall, and which is basically the complete opposite of teaching fitness. And boy, was I eating some of that Cinnabon frosting at the time, not being very fit myself. But my manager, thank goodness, was super mean at Cinnabon. So I quit and I applied at the gym. And the interview was so funny. This guy, Chris, he's interviewing me on a Tuesday. And he's like, well, what do you know? And I said, well, I've never taught fitness before, but I went through rehab and I learned a lot. I'm very interested in the human body. I love exercising here. And he said, well, have you ever taught a class? And I said, no. He said, well, can you teach a class on Friday night? And I said, sure. Sure. So, I'd been taking a bunch and I had the gist. And so I showed up Friday night and I taught a class and I got great feedback with a few bits of constructive criticism. And from there, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with connecting with people. I think that's side by side with my absolute obsession with health and fitness and the way it can benefit people. I was a believer back then because I started seeing people change. People get more confident, they were losing weight, their back pain was going away, their relationships were better, they were doing better at work. And so I thought, wow, this fitness thing is really meaningful. And I believe that in 1,000 times more today. But yeah, so my career went from that to teaching at the University of Florida Fitness Center when I became a Gator. And then during one summer, I went and worked on a cruise ship overseas. I taught in Russia and all of Scandinavia and France and England. And then I came back from that cruising experience, and there was a TV producer casting for a fitness show, and I auditioned and he hired me, and then I started connecting with the masses and fell in love with that, and the career has really just uh, weaved since then, and I'm so grateful for all of the twists and turns because it's connected me with millions and millions of people I've been able to help, and it just it makes my heart happy.
That's amazing. You brought me back, though, to my childhood when you said skating rink and Cinnabon. Like, I have so many memories. We could spend an hour talking about that, but we won't digress for our audience here.
Good times.
Yeah. So the Morning Mile has taken off in hundreds of schools across the US, across Canada, even Japan, and
Yeah.
it's a transformative program for kids. So what inspired you to design that, and how did you scale it?
Yeah, so originally when my kids were little, golly, they were 3 and 5 at the time. We had a friend whose child was walking and running before school at a different school, and I kept thinking, "Gosh, I wish my kids could do that." And every time I'd see her, she'd brag about her son Aiden running before school, and I said, "Gosh, it's such a good idea." And I kept wanting it for Ginger and Parker, and then eventually the light bulb went off and I thought, well, gosh, I wish all kids could do that. That's
Yeah.
actually a solution. It's fun. It's a skill everybody has. I mean, if you have two functioning legs, kids know how to move forward, whether they're walking or running. And my whole business is designed on mass impact. So I have zero interest in leading a program for 12 kids or 12 adults, unless, a keynote, fine, I'll go do that. But if I'm generating something, I want everyone involved. And so I thought I could do that. I could create something where everybody's invited every day and there's no pressure. It's all encouragement and support, and that's what the morning mile is. It's every child every day, plus their family, plus the faculty. It's zero cost to the school. It's funded by outside sponsors. Sometimes a PTA will pitch in. The program's really cheap. It's only $2,500 for the life of the program, so it couldn't be any more expensive, or inexpensive. But yeah, I mean, some of my morning mile fields across America and beyond have hundreds of humans out every single morning of the school year, and so those kids, most importantly, they get their youthful willies out. If they've been pumped full of sugary cereal, they get it out. They sit down in class, they learn better, they behave better. Principals love it because these kids show up on time. If school starts at 8 and the kids are there at 7:20 for the morning mile, then they naturally get to class on time. So it's a real problem solver for the academics, for the professionals who work at a school, but it really changes the life of the kids. And so for those who are not coordinated and can't make a team and stuff, or don't want to compete in sports, this is an opportunity for them to get out, be active in a group, and feel good about themselves and strive for more.
And what a skill, though, to learn to get up first thing and go work out in the morning. I mean,
Yeah.
that is something they can carry through their entire life.
Ding, ding, ding. That's it. That's it. There's nothing I do that is for short term benefit only. Everything has a vision for the future. And already we see so many kids that are moving on to college athletics. I mean, so the original morning milers are now 22. And
Wow.
so these kids are playing college sports, and you ask them, how did you get to your start? They're like, well, I started running at the morning mile and now I do this. So I expect at some point we will have Fortune 500 CEOs saying, I learned these behaviors as a kid at the morning mile. So
Love
very
it.
proud of that.
Yeah, I love that. So, as a trusted TV and media personality, I mean, how do you adapt your message on fitness across different mass media platforms that really resonate? Because everybody has a different skill set and learning aptitude with this. Like, how do you resonate with a diverse audience?
Well, see, here's the deal. Fitness doesn't change. The four pillars of fitness: cardio, strength, flexibility, balance. Those are necessary for every human on earth. That doesn't change, whether you're young or you're old. Flexibility, strength, balance, cardiovascular health. All those things are simple. Nutrition really doesn't change. I mean, there's some anomalies for people with special needs or aversions, but uh, can I talk to older people in a different way than I'm talking to the youth? Yes. If I'm invited to speak to a massive religious organization, do I sometimes throw in, hey, we all believe that, do you believe your body was a gift from God? And I get a big yes. Okay. Well, are you respecting that gift, right? If it's a gift from your almighty, are you treating it the way the Almighty would want you to treat it? Or are you kind of trashing it with processed foods and being lazy and drinking too much? And so, the fitness side of things, the science doesn't change, but being able to connect with different people and what motivates them certainly has its advantages.
Yeah, that's so true. So you've served as the voice for, I mean, some of the biggest races, like from the Los Angeles Marathon to
Yeah.
DC superhero series. How do you infuse your signature energy that everyone is starting to see come out here into those live experiences?
Well, it's interesting because when I love working on television because TV gives me millions of people, right? I get on a morning show and I can connect with 5 million people instantly. And I feel like, boom, that's a good day. That makes me feel like I accomplished something. But in the fitness side of my business, I'm constantly twisting arms. I'm begging people to exercise, trying to compel and convince them. And on race day, I show up and some race organizations says, hey, Fitz, we've got 25,000 people here that have chosen to exercise this morning. Can you make sure they know what to do, know where to go, and know how to and have a good time? And I think, yes, yes, I can do that. And so when I step on a stage, some people have stage fright. I have the fear of never being on that stage again. I get on the stage surrounded by tens of thousands of people, and I am so excited for them because these are the people that are doing the thing I want them to do. They are the best of the best. They're exercising. Not only are they exercising, but they paid, they train for it, they travel for it. So I am ecstatic by what I see. And not only am I I'm enthusiastic about the organization and what they're doing, and I'm grateful for our sponsors. And so the energy is legit coming from me. I'm saying, wow, look at we all are here and we're gonna accomplish millions of miles today. And look at you. I I go back to being the birthday clown. It's there's no ego. I will be silly. I will throw myself under the bus if I can get them to laugh. And there's some announcers who just stand at the microphone and they read a script to give the information. And I feel like I'm sitting at a coffee table or the kitchen table with these thousands of people, and we're, my if the people that are there to PR or to win, if I can pump them up to do their best, that's a high priority for me. But there's a lot of people that are also terrified who've never done it before, or maybe they've had a rough week and they're really nervous. If I can pump these people up while calming the other people down and then unify everybody, make sure everybody feels like they're on the team, whether they came alone from far off places, I can get them feeling like we are one and first to last. We are all going to do this thing. And gosh, sometimes I'm at a start line and I think, there's the obvious folks. Oh, they're here, and of course they're here. But then there's some people that are 90, or there are people that are morbidly obese, or there are people with 0 legs. And I kid you not, I see people with 0 legs running marathons all the time. And so it's surprising to see certain people at the start line, but when they come to the finish line, when they make it all the way, my heart just explodes and I run out and I grab people and I escort them through the finish, and there's lots of hugs and lots of love, and sometimes I'm catching people that are about to hit the ground, and it's a magical experience to be a part of it all. What a blessing. So it's pure joy for me. I love it.
I really like that. I can tell that you like it. I mean, you can't fake that.
No.
It comes natural. That's great. Well, this I think ties into our next question. So our show, it's about stepping towards one's full and confident potential. Like long before you realize, that you even have that potential. And that's what the concept of projecting grandeur is. So when did you realize that you were projecting grandeur, but not just in fitness, but really just in your whole public voice, your presence, your whole way of being?
Well, when I realized I could get people to change, when I could get people to do better and be better, in these personal scenarios, when I was teaching in classes back in college and high school, there were so many opportunities for people to come up and say, oh, I feel this, or I'm experiencing that, or I lost weight. And that was very meaningful. But when I started going out to restaurants and strange places, and strangers would approach and say, hey, I see you on TV and I love you and I've lost 17 pounds. Thank you. That uh, it's just very impactful to me. That lets me know that I'm doing the thing I wanted to do. And then I think being able to be intentionally or just be intentional in your private life too. And so it's very important to me to be impactful as a professional. If not, why do this? Why do this if I'm not actually impacting people, right? But making sure my kids feel loved and they have the attention they deserve. And every single morning, if I'm home, these dogs, they get a mile to 2 mile walk. I have a 16-year-old dog who just bolted across the street to chase a squirrel after her 1 mile walk today. So, I feel like I'm 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 in a good place. I'm happy, and I can support the others around me. That's grandeur. That's grandeur on a big and small level, right?
Absolutely. I love that. That's a great message too. No matter how small or big. I like that.
Yeah,
Well, kind of on a different tone here. So, for I guess for our audience that doesn't know, you in 2019 you were diagnosed with breast cancer, and you wrote a book called My Noisy Cancer Comeback, and then you completed the Boston Marathon while recovering.
yeah.
How? How did you transform that adversity into this kind of comeback that I mean, really is not just radiating, projecting grandeur, like it is grandeur.
Wow, thank you. So that was all it was cancer was the toughest. It was hard. It was nightmarishly hard. I was violently ill for about 15 solid months with I had 20 how many rounds? I had had 21 rounds of chemo and 33 radiation and some surgery. And I was as sick as anyone's ever been, right? I put throw myself in that category. I remember looking in the mirror one day and thinking, whoa, like it was the same day I think that my mother screamed at me, "You need to eat. You look like you're in the Holocaust." I was like, I know. I was skin and bones and bald and gray and so weak. But lucky for me, as I looked at myself thinking, what in the world has gone on here? Lucky for me, I'm a fitness expert. I mean, returning to fitness and vibrancy was never a question in my mind because I knew how to do it. Right. And so it's interesting. Some people say that I know how or I have a passion for this, but then have a game plan and stick with it. That's a completely different thing. And so that's what I did, and I had no intention of running the Boston Marathon. Let me be clear on that. That wasn't like, "I'm gonna get out of here and I'm gonna run Boston." That never ever crossed my mind. So I had, I'd maybe put a few pounds on, and I was just kind of still digging my way out of the ditch when someone called. I had it on my podcast, The Fitzness Show, I had one of the greatest American marathon runners of all time, Meb Keflezighi. He was a guest. And so we had a great interview. And this guy, Vince, who owns a big running group called the Boston Buddies, he calls after and he says, "Hey, that was an awesome interview." I said, "Oh, thanks. It was wonderful." And I really thought that was the phone call, or I might not have answered. But he said, "Hey, Fitz, I got a question for you." I said, "Okay." He goes, "Every year we support an athlete and we support a great cause to run the Boston Marathon. Would you run the Boston Marathon this year?" And it was May or June, and Boston was in October that year. And so I cursed him out. gave him, I gave him what for? And then I said, "Give me 24 hours." And so I hung up the phone and I just thought, well, I mean, there's no way on earth any marathon could be any harder than 13 months of cancer nonsense, right? Like that cancer will always be the hardest thing I will ever do. There's the only thing that could potentially ever be worse is something happening to my children. And hopefully that'll never be the case. So I was like, all right, it's a marathon, big whoop. And so again, I said yes, which goes a long way. And then I had a plan and I stuck to it. And I didn't, I wasn't the fastest and I think I finished in like 15,000th place, but I finished the Boston Marathon and it was exciting. It really is a beautiful course and the fans come out and they're wild and I had my name on my chest. So it was like everybody in Boston was screaming, "Go Fitz." And there's this thing you turn right on. I can't remember the name of the street now, but it's an iconic street. Shame on me for not being able to remember. There's a blue line you follow at the finish line. And so you turn right and then you make a left on Boylston, left, and it's probably half a mile, the finish line shoot. But I made that first right and the emotions hit. It was one of those where, and the crowds are intense. It's just this volume, this wall of cheering. And it got me and I got, it was, I don't really let myself go there much to reflect and feel the hardship and so forth. But at that moment, I got it all. And then I actually said out loud, I was like, "No, Fitz, don't cry, enjoy this." And so I was able to run down Boylston happy and joyful and no tears. And I put that number one finger up at the finish line. I got this iconic finish line photo. So, yeah, I mean, we can do hard things. And it's so much more interesting and exciting to do hard things in fitness and sports and music and work than cancer or
Mm.
disease or illnesses, which is why I fight so hard to get people to take good care of their health because it's so much, so valuable, right?
Yeah, wow, powerful. I love that story
Yeah.
and couldn't agree more. When I think of fitness and when people think of fitness, the obvious is physical, right? You're thinking
Right.
of your physical well being, but there's so much of it that's about mindset. And you've already touched on this a little bit. But when you think about how you help others project that grandeur, through mindset, even when their bodies are weak, and you use that example about people who start the race line, they don't even have legs, for example, like
Yeah.
how do you help them get in the right mindset so that no matter what your body's in, like you're ready?
Yeah, I mean, it's all intertwined, right? And it's your history of whatever you've gone through, whether you had tough times in academics. For me, it was always sports,
Mm.
I think I actually had my children, I signed them up to play soccer when they were little just so they could lose. My daughter lost a spelling bee and sobbed, and then she threw up in my car. And I said, Ginger, I mean, losing's okay, right? So I signed them up to play soccer. And then they had two African kids on the team, like from Kenya. And they came and they obliterated everybody 10-0 every game. I was like, no, I wanted you to lose. Why did you have to be on the team with the great kids? But yeah, it's uh, all of my losses, all of my hardships, all the emotion, the romantic breakups, all the hard things, they attributed to my resilience now, right? So we don't wanna go through the hardships, but they steel us and they prepare us for the big deal things, and so I would say sports are definitely a fantastic support system or teacher for people to have these mental skills of sometimes I will win, sometimes I will lose. It's okay to do both with grace. Maybe I could lose, but I figure out a way to pull out the win. You know, if you're a cross country kid and you're physically tired, it's one more step, one more move in the right direction. And so I think sports and fitness are definitely intertwined with mental health, and they've been proven to increase endorphins that increase joy. You know, if joy is something where, like, for me, I'm a joy addict. I was born that way. I'm a bright sider, and so I choose to be happy. I naturally am happy. If I'm saddened, sometimes I just wake up and I've got the heavy feeling. I can't imagine what it would be like to wake up like that all the time. For folks who suffer depression, I have a lot of empathy. But there's also decisions we can make, and fitness should always be included. Okay, I wake up feeling sad, I go immediately outside. People are more likely to be happy outside than inside. I start moving my body, I start venting that toxic energy, those bad feelings. And so maybe it's playing happy music, not sad music. Maybe it's getting together with the girls or doing shopping or playing my guitar. You know, people need to know that there are things you can specifically do. Always include exercise, always include fresh air if you can, but to affect your mental health. And so I think it can be managed just like your physical health.
I like that. I heard guitar and I want to spend time on that, but I'm not going to. I'll pick your brain on that another day. But I couldn't agree more. Music is such an uplifting part of it.
Right.
So you've worked with universities, nonprofits, corporate
Yeah.
brands, and then everyday people. Like, how do you keep the message tailored so that the core of your message, continues to be bold and authentic, regardless of who your audience is?
Right. Well, each presentation I give is custom to that audience. So I never think, oh, there's a blob of people. I'm going to tell them this. Usually, a event coordinator comes and says, our people need to do better in this category, or this is the theme of our event. And so there's a lot of catering. I mean, gosh, my new present, or they're not really new. Within the past year, or past 5 years, I've added the power of community, first impressions, lasting impressions. And so those are professional keynotes, but I weave always a message of health and fitness through it. So in some presentations, I get into the nitty gritty on the four pillars of health, four pillars of fitness, and I'll talk nutrition. That's not always why I'm brought in. Sometimes people want to hear about health through hardship. So I am talking about exercise, but I am the main focus of that one is okay, stuff's going to hit the fan, right? So for me, it was cancer. For somebody else, it might be sick child, a loss of a parent, a divorce, financial hardship, a fire. And so, okay, these are when life can and will hit the fan. I don't think anybody gets out of life unscathed, right? You know, most people think about exercise, nutrition on the good days, but when things get bad, they let go of their own health. It's just a free for all on food, and they don't sleep and they don't eat, and maybe they're drinking. And then, uh, so those people need to hear about getting their life together and the priority. So I know I'm rambling here, but my presentations are designed for each organization, what they need to hear. But maybe selfishly, I always wind there's a thread of health and fitness that runs through them all.
I think it's a good thing to have running through them all. Uh, so whether you wanted to or not, you've learned probably a ton about leadership and have been thrust into that leadership role and really about community, which you talked about just a second ago.
Yeah.
As you build these programs like Morning Mile, that serve children, schools, and families, like what have you learned? Like, what does leadership and community played such an important role in building programs like that?
I think you have to always lead by example.
Mm,
You have to be doing the big work and then the small work. Uh, it's like having that coach in high school. You're on the team and your coach is overweight and out of shape, telling you to run harder. And no, it doesn't work that way. You have to be doing the thing you want everybody else to do. You have to work the hardest. And it's important for an executive, a CEO, to be negotiating and representing the brand. I mean, golly, my brand is Fitzness, for crying out loud. There is nobody else to point the finger at. I have contractors, I have interns, I hire people, but if there's a problem with Fitzness, it's me, right? But I have a friend who is an executive at Disney. Big deal, probably making a fortune. That person is always walking around with a little grab nabber picking up trash. And so that right there is
mm,
what I want to see out of leadership. And so yeah, you do the big things, you do the small things too. You walk the walk and you're kind and maybe you're focused on the bottom line and the job at hand, but I think you should always be focused on the individuals as much as possible. Sometimes people do need to be fired. Sometimes they just need a little time and encouragement. And I'm a person focused person, so there others matter to me. Others matter to me.
yeah, I like that. Uh, Everything that you do, writing, speaking, mobilizing kids. I mean, grandeur is about impact, not ego. And
Right.
as you look to measure your impact, like how has that shaped your vision today and kind of going forward here?
Yeah, it makes me hungry for more. I mean, it would be nice if I would stop writing books. It would be if you can stop me from writing books. They're a colossal undertaking. It's the Mount Everest of projects, but I have this desperate need to reach so many people and help them, right? So I'm on book number 5, which is torture, but yeah, I just wanna keep helping people. That's the thing, and so I know if I slow down, I reach fewer people. So, we mentioned My Noisy Cancer Comeback. I love that book. That book's done very well, but I also have Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, for example, and the Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal. Those are books designed to help cancer patients go from sick to strong. To me, every cancer patient that doesn't have Your Healthy Cancer Comeback in their hand is a cancer patient that's going to become sicker faster, become weaker faster, and take longer or never dig themselves out of the ditch. So there's a lot of pressure on myself to keep going in a very big way because there's so many people who need help, and I want them all. I just want to help them all.
Yeah. Well, so book number 5, is this like I know you have a new book coming out. Is that
Yeah,
book number 5? Like, can you
it
give us a
is.
little teaser of what this is about?
Yeah, this is the book I've been wanting to write for 20 years. So I'm so glad I finally am writing this book. It's called You Supercharged, and it's the be all end all guidebook for grown-ups who want to get fit, lose weight, and live independently forever. If you want to be a leaner, stronger, more athletic version of yourself right now, I've got you. If you wanna raise a fit family, it's in there. If you want to be 75, 85, and still carry your own groceries and drive to the grocery store and live independently, that's what's in this book. This book is about you, but better. Yeah, so it's called You Supercharged, and it will be on sale in October. I can't
I
wait.
love that. Well, we'll be
Yeah.
sure to add the link if there's a pre-sale when the show comes out here, but definitely the link to it. So, listen, Fitz, it is honestly just amazing to listen to your story. It
Oh,
is so inspiring and so motivating, and I mean, you're like literally a masterclass in boldness and resilience and wholehearted leadership, and just to hear the story is really uplifting. So, thanks for sharing. Um, if our viewers want to learn more about you, is fitzness.com the best place to go, or where
yeah.
would you want to send them?
Yeah, Fitzness.com. That's Fitzzness.com is my home base. I'm also at Fitzness on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Very easy to find. And I hope your listeners know that they too can do better and be better. And if they just work to improve 1% each day in all the little categories of their life, everything will turn around. Even if they're in a good place right now, they can do even better. And I hope they will.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thanks again for sharing. Thanks for being part of our growing community here. And for those of you out there, remember, keep projecting your own grandeur. And as Fitz says, just be a little better every day. We can all live longer, be healthier. And I love the independent living because as I get older, that resonates with me so
That's right.
much.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks again, Fitz.